explosion, his ability to bend and do stuff. So I think, he's done a lot of good things in college, and we think with our coaching staff and what we're doing and his work ethic and how it is, that we think he can even take it another level. So we're very excited to add him.
I know that you guys hate when we bring this up.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, what do you bring
but
up?
his-
Yeah, what do you bring
And
up?
that sounds like projection, okay?
but his stat numbers from college
Mm-hmm.
don't exactly jump off the page. They don't blow you away. What do you attribute the disconnect between the stat numbers and the actual ability for him to play and perform on the field?
I was excited. I thought Barry was going to ask it, so I was going to do it. But since you guys have known me over the years, we've talked about the stats and sacks part. And for us, it's an important part, but we've always talked about the ability to disrupt the passer. And his disruption stuff numbers are all very high, So he's, for us, working through the analytics, watching him and what he does and contributes. Sacks, people always want to do it. The guy that comes to mind for me would be Donnell Hunter. Had 4 career sacks coming out of college, and he's been a really good player in this league. Not putting that pressure on him to be Donnell Hunter, but there's not just him. There's other players throughout the league. If you go look at what their college numbers are compared to how they've had success in the pros, and we think a lot of his traits and the things you see on film translate. He has things he has to work on. He knows that, and again, the exciting part is the kid and who he is and his work ethic and how much he loves ball and his toughness. So we're excited to work with him, and we think he has a chance to be a really good player.
Mike, you once told us that edge rusher is your favorite position in football, so really true to form pick, I guess. Huh?
Absolutely. The cool thing about the opportunity that we had at that pick is that if you have a player contributing in pass rush, those are things that you feel very fortunate to not pass up. It's as passing games become more and more of a focus, those players are really big part of the driving force of your defense. So and to double down on Chris's point, just like we're more used to receivers. You're not just drafting, okay, the guy with the highest amount of production goes first and next. I'm not sure if anybody could even rattle off the order of the production of the players. The disrupting the passer, there's a lot of compounding variables to a sack, whether a quarterback sees it, holds on to it or not. But disrupting the passer and taking the rhythm off the pass game, that's a stat for him, but it's also for teammates, and production comes off that too. So it's exciting to not have to block him.
Chris, how close were you to making a trade?
We were active on the phones. I'll just say that. So I don't know how close we got, but we were active probably through the back end of the draft.
How close did the board fall that you guys had set up to what actually happened in round 1?
That was pretty close. We were sitting there, yeah. So there were a couple players at the end we were excited for, and so we were active, even trying to get back in to get another one here in the late first.
There was like a stretch, the 7 picks before you guys went on the clock. It seemed like every single one of those guys would have made sense for you. Or I'm not going to ask you how Chop compared to them, but were you kind of sweating, hey, player after player after player that might be a good fit here going? Are we going to get our guy?
It's not sweat. It's just, Chop was someone that we identified and thought he might be there. And, if he wasn't, there were other players we liked there as well. So, but he was our targeted player. So for us, I guess, we're very excited to have him.
You guys went through some terrible luck with edge rushers at the end of last year.
What do you mean?
Injury-wise.
Too soon.
Of course. Including your top 2 guys who were lost for the season. How much, if at all, did that play into selecting Chop?
No, I mean, obviously you always look at your roster for what it is, but for us it was, like we've talked about, it's just adding the best players in the draft at that point. So for us, he was rated as one of the top players in this draft for us. So adding to him, especially rushing the passer in this league with all the quarterbacks, the great quarterbacks, and the skill. I mean, the ability to rush with 4 and not have to blitz every down and stuff. I think that creates an advantage for the defense. So for us, he was a player that we had in high regard with high grades, and so for us to add him, we were again very excited to have him.
Is there a scenario where you see Chop, Jalen, and Bradley on the field at the same time, or do you imagine more of a rotation? I see Mike looks like he's in the kitchen right now.
Mm-hmm. All scenarios are live. I think it's key to remember, man, that team, if they just had too many pass rushers, that was their problem. That's never been said. So I think that's the common denominator is you know that you're adding to your team. You feel great about that, and you let the players kind of set the orchestration of all the multiple things you can do. But I know our coordinator is not afraid outside the box, so he might be playing corner. Who knows?
To that point, Chris, you had mentioned that Coach Weaver had brought visuals to you about some of the players you guys added in free agency. I was curious his involvement in this process and kind of how he brought his interest in Chop to you guys.
Yeah, no, it's been very collaborative, and that's as you've always heard us talk about it. It's important because you can't just have, whether it's just scouts or just coaches saying this is our guy. It's working together, working through it, whether you see players the same or differently, and for us the collaboration, working through it with not just Weaver but Ryan Crow, outside linebacker coach, was fantastic, and the whole defensive staff, and as well as the scouting. So we meet as individually, we meet as groups, and so we spent a lot of time working through it because it's an important pick for us. And so it was cool working with Weave and the guys and the new guys here and seeing the work ethic. And we were presented a packet the other day on Chop, which was fantastic that Crow put together for us. So no, it was very collaborative, and it was exciting, and really enjoyed it.
On the scale of raw to polished, where do you view Chop's skill set and toolbox?
Relished? I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yeah,
There you go.
it's kind of weird. Yeah, I mean, he's
Yeah,
I mean,
relished.
his testing numbers are elite, and you see all the tools, the things he can do. But is he a finished product? No, and I think he'd probably admit that to you as well. And not many players coming to the league are. So we think he has, obviously, the get off and speed that everyone talks about is kind of rare, and his athletic tools. So I think, again, for us, he still has a runway to keep improving, but the fact that the guy works hard and has a tremendous motor and toughness to him is which gives us really excitement to think that he'll reach his peak of ability that we think he can hit.
Do you now go into day 2 with a focus on O-line, maybe D-tackle, the trenches?
No, I think for us we'll get together here tomorrow. We'll go home tonight, and then we'll get together in the morning and look at the board and see who's up there and kind of put the plan together. But, again, it's taking the best player, not just roster, but whoever the best player is too. So down where we're picking, we probably need to see who falls to us, and then we'll see if we get aggressive to go up and get somebody.
How does it feel to finally have that first round pick under your belt?
Dude, this is awesome. Like, we should do this more often. What was really cool is just knowing that you're just from the organization standpoint and the personnel and coaching staff having, understanding the assets are real but they're limited, and the focus for preparation for all the different scenarios. I could feel just overall there was a deep dive on every level to be as thorough as possible. And I think what was exciting for all of us is the conviction that came out and the vision and, you know, the extensive process that we went through, and to have, you know, the opportunity to add to our football team a guy that has plenty of room to grow, but I think from all departments, we were very, very convicted that he can be productive and help the entirety of the defense while growing. And that's a key component, you know, for us, which is, we talk about disrupting the passer and all of those things. That's you know, I think that's a really cool thing to be able to do. And you know, I hope all first rounds go like they went today, because we feel very, very convicted and pumped for the football team.
Chris, when the first round you have some unexpected events, was it 6 of the first 12 selections were quarterbacks, and I think the first 14 were offensive players.
Unexpected? Oh.
We
knew.
I saw that.
Oh, yeah.
But what happens in the draft room? Are there phone calls? Are you consulting with other people here? Are new possibilities? What happens in the draft room?
It's like everything. You do your homework and you talk to a bunch of people. So for us, we had a pretty good idea that 5 were going to go, you know, before our pick. And we were told the possibility of 6. So we were kind of working through it. So when you do your homework and work through people and even just digging through our own analytics and going through everything, that for us, it wasn't really a surprise. The phone calls all at that point were really coming into us about people trying to move up to our spot. So it was relatively quiet. We had about 4 or 5 teams that were trying to move into our spot, and as the board kept falling to us, which it thought it was, like you said, it kind of fell to where we had it. At that point, we decided to stay where we were because the offers weren't enticing enough for us to move.
Did you have any inclination to move up, or was 21 kind of where you're going to pick?
No, as the board was falling, like I said, with the guys, there were multiple players there that we liked at 21.
Just make sure I heard you correctly earlier. You said that you were on the phone trying to trade back into the first round?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Gotcha.
Without a third or fourth rounder, there is a 103 pick drought between your second round pick and your
Was that live math? Buddy.
I looked down at my notes for a second, but what's the level of urgency to get back into one of those middle rounds?
Again, we'll just, as the board falls and the players, like you said, you never want to get desperate in doing things and moving around. But if opportunities arrive, you know, we'll take a shot and move around.
You had mentioned early on about getting to know Chop as a person as well as a player. What stands out to you both in terms of Chop as a person?
Thanks for the attention.
Really just getting to know him and just who he is as a person. Just talking to some of the things he's been through in his life and seeing how he's come out, and just listen to people just talk about his character. And in terms of how he just loves football and the passion and how he plays and his work ethic and his drive, he's you know, his whole focus is football. He loves football. He wants to be great. And I think you guys saw his clip of when we talked to him on the phone. He was so excited. You know, he's ready to come play right now. And so just when you meet kids like that and it's genuine and you understand that they truly love football and they want to be great and they know that it doesn't come easy and they're going to have to work. And so that gives them a chance to be the player that everyone thinks he is. So, we're very excited.
I agree.
You told us last year that we were more worried about the offensive line than maybe you were. Just curious, 12 months later, you went pass rush over O-line. Graham Bart and others were available at 21. What's your level of confidence right now where the O-line is?
Yeah, no, we were talking about that coming in, and then again, like like you said, last year was this, and just the level of what Coach and Coach Barry had done with the offensive line. We still think those guys will keep improving, and the job they did last year with how we were moving the ball and scoring and stuff. So very excited. Again, the draft's not over, and again, there's always still free agency to add pieces to come in. So again, we're excited with the guys we have in the room. We added a couple guys through free agency, and we'll keep looking at it, but we're excited with the guys who are in the room.
So you're kind of saying that offensive line is a position that we continue to be over-obsessed about, that you're not really that stressed about.
We love your passion. No, it's everything. There's a lot of good players available. We didn't feel like there's any sort of like you try to go into the draft, so Chris and I both share the firm belief that you position yourself as best you can to take the best available player, and allow these players to kind of shape your team. I think it comes off as like, oh yeah, we're dismissing, and it's quite the contrary. We have a really good orchestration of talent evaluation, and coaching, and with that, we have a room of passionate guys that we know that are going to develop. And when you have you can only pick one guy, and depending on the value relative to the class and historical, what produces in the NFL, you take your shot when you recognize the opportunity for your team to get better. So I think it's more of a complement of the development, that I think the one thing you can say is there's a history of guys getting better, and it's you can understand how people, especially well-informed reporters and fans, and you look at a picture of a player last year. Well, part of the thing that our mantra is you're signing up as a Dolphin. We're going to invest and develop you. So what you see last year, our bottom lines, we're expecting as coaches and players to that's a different guy the next time you see him. So there's a lot of positions, there's a lot of players, and I think when guys are continuing to develop, there's sometimes it can come off like we're investing. That's it's just in a way of in-house commitment and making sure that we get the right guys that want to develop, and then we get the right developers.
Chris, in college stops, obviously played some linebacker, played defensive end. Do you see him as a stand-up linebacker? Do you see him as a hand-in-the-ground end, or both in this scheme that you have?
I think it's some of the versatility we liked. You see it when you watch him. He rushes kind of all over, inside. He's over the center. He's 2-point, 3-point, and so that versatility is what drew us to him initially.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.